In this video, I'm going to show you how I make ratatouille. This involves an onion, a bell pepper, 2 bell peppers, zucchini, squash, eggplant, a package of couscous, as well as a package of chicken. I begin by cutting the onion. I prefer to cut it in bigger chunks for ratatouille. I'm not dicing it. I'm keeping the pieces kind of big so that they keep their shape and the dish doesn't become mushy. Moving on to the zucchini and squash, I try to keep the pieces kind of large as well, similar to how I cut the onion. It just helps them keep their shape. The same with the eggplant. I try to keep the pieces big enough that they can absorb the oil and the flavors without becoming soggy. And the bell peppers, I chose a green and an orange. I chose the orange one to kind of offset the other colors and provide a different color. First, I'm adding olive oil to the bottom of the pan. I always use olive oil in this dish. It just seems appropriate considering it's French and it kind of has a Mediterranean flair. And I'm just adding all the vegetables to the pan. You can see it kind of starting to smoke there. I just add olive oil multiple times as I cook it just so that it doesn't start to burn onto the bottom of the pan. In the beginning, I do kind of stir the dish a lot. I'm adding a little more oil there, as you can see. The more, the better. I'm cooking it kind of on medium to medium-high heat, just watching it, stirring it so that it doesn't burn. And just to show you what it should look like, this is the eggplant. As you can see, it's soaked up all the olive oil and the flavors of the other vegetables as they've kind of sauteed together. But that's what you want to look for. I call the eggplant the canary in the coal mine because it kind of tips you off as to what's going on. And I'm adding a bay leaf at this point. I like to add bay leaves to everything I cook. I just think it adds a nice flavor. And now I'm adding the bell pepper. I like to add these at the end. I think they cook faster than some of the other veggies. And now we're adding our tomatoes. I like to use 2 cans because I like the ratatouille to have something of a gravy once it's all finished, and adding the 2 just kind of gives it more liquid, but you could totally add 1 can and experiment and see how that turns out. I'm just a Southern girl. I like gravy on everything, and adding the 2 cans kind of gives it a gravy at the end. And now I'm gonna season it. I could have seasoned it much earlier, but sometimes I just forget and wait till the end. So I'm just gonna add, of course, Tony's Chacheres. I always season with Tony's Chacheres. It's just a good catch-all. And then I add Italian seasoning and parsley. Now the Tony's is spicy and salty, so I don't add salt because the Tony's has salt in it. And then I just like the other 2 items. They give it a good flavor. At this point, I'm just checking out the eggplant to see how it's ticking along. It looks like it's absorbing well. It's not getting too soft, but we're getting close. It's going to be time to lower the heat and just let it simmer there so that it doesn't cook down to mush. And just to show you what some of the other veggies should look like, this is the squash. It's kind of soft, but not too soft. You don't want it to be too mushy unless that's what you prefer. And the onions are translucent, so you just want to watch it, stir it, let it simmer, but not let it get to be too soft. And I'm cooking chicken breast to go along with the ratatouille. I'm actually cooking these on a different day than I cook the ratatouille. I made a second batch several weeks later because I never posted the video, so it's kind of between 2 different recording sessions. But I like to use these 4 seasonings: Tony's Chacheres, extra virgin olive oil, Italian seasoning, and parsley. So I add that to the ratatouille, add it to the chicken. It's kind of my go-to set of seasonings. So once I season the chicken, I'm just gonna place it in the oven on about 400 degrees and cook for about 45 minutes. These pieces are kind of big, so they may need even a little bit more than that. But a lot of that oil will sit on the bottom of the pan, so it just gives good flavor to bake it. I like to eat ratatouille alongside couscous. I first ate ratatouille when I was living in Europe. I was living in Belgium, and the family that I lived with always made ratatouille with couscous. So that's how I was introduced to it, and that's how I continue to eat it, and I think it's great. I think it complements the dish. I like the texture of it. So I prepare it according to the box. This is the brand that I use, but you could use any kind of couscous. But just to note, you could use any kind of carb that you prefer. You could use pasta, you could use rice, you could just eat it over bread or with bread on the side. The main way that I eat it is just the chicken and the ratatouille, and I don't even eat another carb on the side. I like it that way. And this is what couscous looks like once it's all cooked. It's really easy, just follow the box directions. And once it's finished, it's nice and fluffy. And this is the chicken all finished. As you can see, a lot of that oil is just on the bottom. I'm just gonna leave it in the pan and take the pieces of chicken out. But this is what it looks like finished. Looks good. And the finished plate. Oh, this looks so good. I'm excited about this. Look at that chicken. I may have left the chicken in just a tad too long, but it's still gonna be good. So this is how I serve it. I like to use 2 cans of tomatoes because I like a little bit of a gravy on my couscous. But this is it. And you can see the gravy here. This is why I use 2 cans of tomatoes, because I like to have a little bit of a gravy to pour over the ratatouille. But a lot of people may prefer it drier. You could use 1 can. You could experiment with both. But this is how I like to make it. And here is the meal prep. So as you can see, it made quite a bit. I haven't figured out how to cook it in small batches because you have to use up all the veggies, the eggplant, the squash, the zucchini. And once you chop everything up, it's just a lot of food. So I don't know how to make a smaller batch of this, but it doesn't matter because I'm going to eat it for several days. It's that good. It smells good. It reheats well. I put the chicken on the bottom of a lot of those bowls because if I put the ratatouille over it, it kind of keeps it from drying out. It kind of marinates it while it sits in the fridge, as well as the couscous that's in there. And so I like that. I like to do that. I think it reheats well that way. So this is a healthy start for the new year, even though we're still in the old year. This is a good meal to get me through. I'll probably cook it again in January at some point because it's one of my favorites. We ate it in Belgium when I lived there, so it brings back good memories of another time, and it just tastes so good. I also like that this dish fits into a lot of different diets. If you leave out the couscous, it's kind of a low-carb meal. If you leave out the chicken, it can be vegan or vegetarian. It can be gluten-free if you leave out the couscous and you use something else. So lots of options there. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more.